Hi Booktube, and welcome to a new video. This is a tag video. This is the Authortube in the Trenches tag, which was originated by Adrian over at Strip Cover Lit. And it's, as far as I can tell, questions about the writers who hover and populate Booktube. 1. Do you have a sweetheart novel, short story, poetry project? A project that turned you into a serious writer? I don't really. I think my writing career when I finished projects, even in the early days, they were to my satisfaction. I thought they were good or good enough. But the journey I've taken is not finding my voice so much, because I've had that from quite early on, but it's finding the form, the artistic and literary form that sort of, I think, sort of deviates from the norm. And I sort of bumped into it sort of piecemeal fashion, sort of bits of it here, bits of it there. But the more I've read, the more I've been able to cohere it through drawing on the examples of other writers. So not one piece in particular, but I'm very happy kind of where I finally have ended up in my writing career. I know a lot more now than I did when I started out. Question 2. Do you ever plan to work on a series length project? No, because I don't write genre. I understand that series can work in genre, although I personally don't think they do. But from the type of literature I write, say it all in one book, move on to the next subject, the next set of characters, the next set of themes, ideas. Why don't I think series work in genres very well? Well, it's to do with characters. So I don't really read series, but I've read some books that are parts of series, such as the Joe Nesbo, Harry Houle detective novels. And the two I read were sort of well past the beginning ones, so sort of middle and towards the more recent ones. One was The Leopard and the other was The Snowman, which I think came before The Leopard. I think the Leopard followed The Snowman. I don't think they're any in between. But the jump between the character traits in Harry Houle from one to the other was just absurd. So he underwent a lot of trauma. His sort of family were sort of threatened by the serial killer in The Snowman. So okay, he's had to deal with all this trauma, so that when The Leopard opens up, he's a heroin addict. And that leap was just too, I've read an awful lot about drug addiction. I've written a lot about it in my sort of drama days, when I wrote stage plays. And that addictive personality, or that sort of propensity to succumb to addiction, is in you, from an early age. So unless his addictive personality has been highlighted in the earlier books that I haven't read, it's just too great a leap from, yes, he suffered trauma, to the way he copes with it is to shoot up heroin. I just didn't buy that. And also, by about page 30, he'd kicked his heroin habit and was becoming a detective again. So this is why I don't like series, because each new book in the series has to find some new wrinkle on the character to keep it fresh. No, doesn't work. 3. Thoughts on mixed form projects, short stories that contain poems, novels that contain short stories, etc. Well, as someone who's probably called an experimental writer, I'm all in favour of this, but we need to get away from the narrow, restricted thinking of poems, short stories, flash fiction. Let's think in terms of things like, calligraphy. Let's think in terms of the layout of words or even letters on the page. Let's think in terms of what else? What I'm saying is that question to me is too hidebound in your thinking, as to the huge potential and unused resource of sort of different approaches to writing literature. So yes, absolutely in favour, but we need to expand our imaginations from what that question seems to imply is on offer. 4. Where do you picture publishing in 10 years? I don't know. I don't give a lot of time to thinking about publishing. I kind of write the books I want to write and then figure out how to try and get them published. I just hope people are still reading in 10 years. And looking at the sort of strength of Booktube, it seems to be in very robust health. I've changed, our office has moved in the last month, and so I'm on a different underground tube line on my commute to work, and there's quite a few people reading books, not even Kindles, just books on the tube. So that's quite heartening, really. 6. Writers' quarrels are things of legend. What author alive today would you want to spat? Jonathan Franzen. I don't think I need to add anything else. 7. Have you ever been part of a writers' group? Well, yes, but not. I have once, because I don't know, I thought I ought to get out more, really. And I don't know what to say about it, really. It didn't, because my writing is sort of on the extreme wing of literature. You're never going to really find that many like-minded people in a geographical location doing similar stuff to form a writers' group. All I will say for that group is that I'd written a flash fiction story. It kept me awake all night, and as is my wont, I will not get up and write it down. I've taught myself to memorise key phrases and stuff. So when I got up the next day before work, I wrote it down using these key phrases, and it pretty much came out sort of, not needing any editing, because I'd worked on it so much in my sort of trying to get to sleep and failing. But brilliantly, I forgot to print it off. And I don't have a smartphone, so I couldn't access it. So when I went to the writers' group straight from work, because I'd been playing it over and over in my mind when I was trying to get to sleep, I sort of had a sort of eidetic memory of it. And I recited it at the workshop without any script or anything. Now, it wasn't 100% perfect, but I'd say it's sort of about 85-90% perfect from the version I wrote. So that's about the only thing I can remember from my writers' group. Oh, actually, no, I do remember there was they had a guest author in who was a crime writer. And on one level she was really impressive because she worked really hard on the promotional side. She would go and visit bookshops up and down the country every weekend. But she was a terrible person. 8. Do you have a favourite writer's craft book? Nope. 9. Do you have a least favourite writer's craft book? No. I've come to writing in my own way, and I'm really happy with that. I don't feel I need to import ideas that seem to me, again, quite hidebound, constrained. They seem to come from the position of writing is hard. Well, yes and no. You have to force yourself to. You have to, be forced to do it. No, you don't. I enjoy it. I love it. It's, as I've described it before, it's like playing in a sandpit, and instead of sand, you have words. So I don't have to be made to sit down and give up other things of an evening to write. So I don't need a craft book, which I feel would take me away from the pleasure of it and become much more mechanical and automatic. I've missed out question 5. Duh. If you could have one booktuber review your work, who would it be? Well, this is a tough question. So first of all, a few booktubers have reviewed my work. So Jason at Old Blues Chapter and Verse has reviewed it. Peg the Literary Addict has reviewed it. Todd the Librarian has reviewed my debut novel from 2009. So I only got a hold of a copy of it because I'd withdrawn the print copy and just concentrated on a updated edition for Kindle. But Todd got the original paperback version and reviewed it. I have potentially a couple more booktubers to review my current novel. I know they've got hold of the book. So I have only undue gratitude to anyone who reads and particularly, takes the time and effort to commit to giving their thoughts on my work. So those people have done it. I would say sort of Adrian and Dalton at Stripcover Lit, except obviously that sounds too brown-nosing and toadying, sycophantic. But one reason I like the way they do reviews, serious reviews, with sort of 3 good things, 3 bad things, quotes and all of that. But as I say, it's probably a bit persicky, really. So I would suggest either Brian at Bookish or Neil Griffiths, who isn't on Booktube much half the year because he set up the Republic of Conscious Surprise and not unreasonably withdraws himself from Booktube while he's reading books for the prize. Now that prize came to a conclusion last month, so welcome back, Neil. I'd love love to have you making some more videos. And 10 is tag peoples. Well, this is for people who write, so I'm going to tag Dane Cobain over at Dane Reads because he's an author. Todd the Librarian has already been tagged by the Strip Cover Lit, but I've just emphasised, Todd, please do this if you feel like it. And I'm just trying to think of other writers that I know who are also booktubers. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but if I do think of any, I'll put them in the show notes and consider yourself tagged. Okay, so that's the tag. Thanks very much to Adrian, and I shall obviously put the original tag down, the link to that in the notes. Okay, till next time. Thanks.